am here, graced with the fake weeb. How are you doing, brother?
Yo, I'm doing good. Excited to talk about some Jujutsu Kaisen stuff with you guys.
The current state of the Culling game and the biggest elephant we need to address in this room. Gege Akutame said in the beginning of this year, the series will be over. Do you believe this?
You know what? If you were to ask me this question before the whole Sumiki and Sukuna stuff, I would have said no. But that said, now that Sukuna is out and he's free from Yuji's body, it's more likely for this series to end this year. I mean, we've already gone through the build-up stages of the Culling games. Things are going to climax from here on out. There's no more waiting. There's not going to be any more build-up, really. Everything else is going to be like the final battles taking place, the death counts adding up. So yeah, all in all, I do think Jujutsu Kaisen could end this year.
And now, Sukuna. Okay, he's in Megumi's body. That being said, will he be in Megumi's body permanently, or will he use some sort of secret Zenin ability to become his own entity?
You know, those two possibilities were kind of like the only potential pathways I foresaw with how this Megumi and Sukuna situation could play out. But there's consequences or small gripes that would occur, which actually led me to think of a third scenario, which I'll go over after. But to explain like the consequences first, let's say like, you know, Sukuna stays in Megumi's body. You know, that would be cool, right? Because then we would see the full potentials of the 10 Shadows technique, which I'm pretty sure we'll talk more about that in a bit. And we got to see a glimpse of that with the ginormous Nu. You know, we could also see like 10 Shikigami unlocked, and obviously for the first time in the technique's history, we'll see the Maharaga get tamed. But it goes even further, right? The idea of Sukuna staying in Megumi's body means that the grand battle of Gojo versus Sukuna, that would technically be like it's Gojo fighting his foster son, Megumi, right? And this has been foreshadowed in Shibuya with an ancestor from the Gojo clan fighting a 10 Shadows user from the Zenin clan. So like, it would be really cool now that Sukuna has taken over the 10 Shadows' body, we could see it as a recreation of that. And it would also be like a nice parallel to the Gojo versus Toji fight, because this time it's Gojo versus Toji's son, and it would be like Gojo sort of failing that promise of looking over Megumi so that he wouldn't become a bad guy. But now obviously he's a bad guy. So yeah, that's why it makes a ton of sense to see Sukuna stay in Megumi's body. But a couple of consequences along with that means we won't see Sukuna in his old dominant body. And don't get me wrong, I think, you know, his design in Megumi is sick, but I think the majority of the community would want to see Sukuna in his old body again. I mean, the 4 arms, the half morphed face, his demonic build in general, it just resonates final boss battle transformation. So I actually have a third option, which is the pathway where Sukuna stays in Megumi's body, though he'll resurrect his old body using the 10 Shadows, but that doesn't mean he'll separate from Megumi. I think we'll see Sukuna's 4 arms, the half face, all the features we saw in the 2 to 3 panels we've seen of his old body morph into Megumi's, and that way we can still see Sukuna when he was a beast in the Heian era, and as well as meet the parallels and foreshadowing of Gojo fighting Megumi.
Let's go ahead and just follow up now. If Megumi frees himself from Sukuna, do you think we'll see his latent potential, or will it be all revealed only by Sukuna?
I think Sukuna is going to do that for him. We've seen a glimpse of what he did with Nue and how that's like the potential of the 10 Shadows technique. I think Sukuna is going to go forward with that and eventually tame Maharaga and maximize the domain. I don't see like Megumi doing that anymore because Sukuna has already done it. Unfortunately, he's not going to be the one unlocking his full potential.
We saw Nu turn into a kaiju. What's the potential for the rest of Megumi's Shikigami? Do you think Maharaga will be tamed through Sukuna? So what do you think these other Shikigami are going to look like?
We'll do Divine Dog. I think Divine Dog totality is like considered Megumi's strongest attacking Shikigami. It was able to pierce through Hanami's arm, who's actually one of the most durable characters in the series because of her hardened shell. It also exercised that like finger bearer curse in one slash, and then in the latest arc, it chomped off a piece of Regi's flesh. Considering all that, and then applying it to Sukuna being the summoner, then yikes. I don't know if you've read One Punch Man, but in the back of my mind, I was thinking that totality, right, given that Nue increased its size to a ginormous amount, totality could be the size of Rover, who's like this big dog, or who was big in the Monsters Association arc, or something similar to that. And then his attack damage, we saw was very lethal under Megumi's power. It could like amp up to an insta-kill. Like 1 slash from totality is maybe similar to 1 clean slash from Maki's soul cutting blade, or heck, maybe even relative to cleave and dismantle, which would actually be very fitting since it's like under Sukuna and that's actually one of his abilities. So yeah, I think totality would be insanely strong. Rabbit Escape too. The rabbits are just like a bunch of rabbits. They don't actually attack, they're used for distraction. So I don't know, it kind of reminds me, okay, the size of these rabbits would increase. I bet the amount of rabbits would too. I'm kind of thinking of the scene from The Lion King where Simba is running down this ravine and there's like a huge stampede of wild beasts chasing him or whatever. So I can see that happening with the rabbits, indirectly hurting people since they're not actually meant to attack, but because of their size and of their overwhelming amount, they would.
Let's go ahead and talk about more of the current stuff. So chapter 213 concluded with Sukuna readying to devour Angel. Is this the end for her character?
Okay, if Angel dies here, then there's just so much more lore and backstory to explore with Angel. One, she has like this creed and this belief that she wants to eliminate all the reincarnated sorcerers. It goes against her beliefs. And then another thing is that she literally calls Sukuna the fallen or the disgraced one, and that obviously spikes up a lot of interesting backstory we have to see. The third thing is Tengen. I mean, I'm pretty sure Tengen, like before the Culling game started, he said that he can't look into the barriers of the Culling games because like the barriers are blocking his view, but he still knew that Angel was going to get into the Culling game. So I personally see there's a lot of things with Angel that we still have to explore. So I wouldn't want her to die in the next chapter, and I don't think she's going to die in the next chapter. I think something's going to happen here.
Let's go ahead and talk about someone who is just having the worst day of his life, Yuji. How bad do you feel for Yuji right now?
Yuji's going through some rough times. I think Yuji is going to sit out for a while. The Sukuna stuff will die down and go away in a couple of chapters or whatever, and then like the next sequence of Jujutsu Kaisen will show Yuji waking up and going through some major development, whether he wakes up on his own, go through his own enlightenment, or someone heals him with reverse curse technique. From like a narrative standpoint, like with his purpose, he's always hated himself for being alive. He blames himself for like the misfortune that Sukuna causes. Sukuna is like a burden, and he sees himself as a burden as a result. With the recent stuff with Megumi, Yuji will be like at his absolute lowest worst when he wakes up. If he has like the mentality instead of to help people for the greater good, and he changes it to kind of be selfish and seek out his own strength and his own desire to get stronger, maybe we could see him get stronger from there and get a power up, because one of the important themes of Jujutsu Kaisen is to be selfish. So I can see Yuji going through something like that, and we'll see that for a while before everything actually happens at the Culling games, before the good guys versus the bad guys and stuff. I'm not sure, because I know it was stated in the beginning that he will inherit Sukuna's abilities, but now that Sukuna is out of his body, I'm not sure how much that statement holds up. So, but I think he will for sure get a power up in the future.
Let's go ahead and talk about the other main protagonist, or who people want to be the main protagonist, Yuta, right? Yuta was very impressive during that four-way battle, but after what we saw Kenjaku do to Yuki, of all characters, and a lot of people have been poising up this battle, Yuta versus Kenjaku. Do you think we'll see that battle?
Yuta versus Kenjaku is going to happen. People are not going to like what I'm about to say, but I think Yuta, when he does fight Kenjaku, I think he's going to die. I think thematically, it would make more sense if Yuta dies. I know that sounds very uncanny, but it would almost act like a parallel or like a payback to the fight in Volume 0, but this time Yuta loses. Because I know he was supposed to be like leading the next generation for like the young sorceress, but I see him dying with the side with Kenjaku, and that's where the story will end for him.
Either way, what you said about Yuta, I'm on board with it. It might not be the popular choice, but Gege doesn't care about our opinions.
Look forward to the Culling games arc. I feel like everything now here, because the Culling games before was like the build-up stage, all of that is gonna be paid off. We're now entering the final stage, so be excited. Everything is gonna go crazy, and yeah, just read Jujutsu Kaisen week to week. It's gonna be insane from here.
Thank you so much for joining me here today.
Dude, 100%. Thank you so much for letting me in on this.
Until next time, see ya.